Humans of the cardboard. This is huge information we got today. This is a brand new spell card for Power of the Elements. It's a generic removal spell, and it is actually insane. No joke. So we're gonna get into this. Let's just do this thing. All right. This is Ultimate Slay. So based on Artemis. No, not Artemis. Right? Is it Artemis? I don't even know, man. Arrowhead. The written name is Arrowhead, the Moon Goddess. The Furigana says it should be read as Ultimate Slay. All right. Artemis, the Moon Goddess. All right, there we go. It has what's her face, Appaloosa, in the artwork. It appears here, but let's get into this. Okay, normal spell card. Your opponent cannot activate monster effects in response to the activation of this card. Super polymerization clause. A little bit worse, just because Super Poly says your opponent can't respond, period. Right? But still, monsters are the main thing, right? Not a lot of decks are setting like Omni Negates, counter traps in this day and age. It's mostly end boards with, your your Baronne de Fleurs and whatnot, stuff like that. So anyway, here we go. Send one monster from your extra deck to the graveyard. Then target one monster your opponent controls with the same monster card type, Fusion, Synchro, XYZ, Pendulum, or Link, as cost. All that is cost. Return that monster to the deck. That is actually so crazy. Like, honestly. Okay, so not only do you get to essentially just target and shuffle a monster back into the deck, but also you send a monster from your extra deck to the graves. And that's as cost, which is really, really strong. Long story short, this becomes one of just like the premier removal spells in my eyes moving forward. It does target, which hurts it. It does not get you a resource. Well, it potentially could, but usually it's not going to get you a resource. There, it is just a raw removal of your opponent's card, and it depends on what your opponent's playing. That's the one downside to this, but I do think we'll be in formats where this card is just too good not to have at least in your side deck. I don't know how many people will be main decking this, because going first, obviously this card doesn't do fucking anything, but still, side deck, I think this will be a premier card. The coolest thing to look at here from this point is what can we even send? Fusion is the best matchup for this card. Any fusion-based deck that's summoning a fusion monster going first is going to make this card 1,000 times better, because not only do we have stuff like Intis, but we have stuff like Chimera Phlasia if you're playing a fusion deck of your own, so you can search a fusion card on your next turn. It allows you to grind. If you're playing a Dogmatica deck, you could just send Titaniclad. If you're playing a weird rogue deck, you could be sending Brigand, the whatever dragon, to summon and or search a follow-up Tri-Brigade on the end phase. Same thing with Spring-Ins, right? So there's a couple of different fusions there that are specific to your deck. Not only that, you're looking at also like Fossil Skull Knight. If you want a later pop, you don't need a pop right then and there. Send him and wait it out, and you'll be able to pop something later on. I think there's also a Spell and Trap Negate pop for those as well, and you're also even looking at Shaddolls. Potentially getting like a Shaddol setup by sending something to just get those searches going, and depending on the deck you're playing, just get you into more of your Shaddol stuff, search a Schism, and get down and dirty. Really, really crazy for fusions. As far as synchros go, I couldn't think of anything off the top of my head right this second aside from Wind Pegasus. Wind Pegasus is obviously really strong in this scenario, getting that removal and then allowing you to like play through the rest of the board easier, because it like punishes your opponent if they have to negate and destroy something, or their interruption is a destruction. Really punishes them in that instance. As well as Herald of the Arclight. That's the other one that's like big for this. Is one, you could be searching something like Saravis to then protect the rest of your situation. If some of their other interruption is target based, that really helps you play through that. Or you could look at something like Illusion of Chaos into Magician's Souls. If you're already playing a deck that plays it, that just lets you search one of your best extenders in your deck, and that could be really, really nice. Aside from that, Exceed, Pendulum, Link, not a ton of great utility there. There's not a ton of Links, Pendulums, and Exceeds that give you amazing value in graveyard if you're sending it via your own card effect. I know with Exceeds, at least if your opponent forces you to send something, you can send like the Cyber Dragon Nova, and then it can summon out like a Makaba. Unfortunately, we can't do that here because we're sending it with our own effect. But still, I mean, just the removal. I mean, as long as you have one of those 3 types in your extra deck, it's still just a really strong removal card your opponent cannot respond to. And a lot of times, me personally, especially somebody who plays a lot of rogue decks, I find myself in scenarios where it's like, if I could beat this one last interruption, I could have broken the board. I could have played through. I could have handled this meta deck. But they have the one last interruption. It is the final nail in the coffin for what your hand has to offer. And this card could be a solution to stuff like that. So I have expectations that this card will probably be a secret rare, if not an ultra rare. If it's lower than that, then like, I mean, good on Konami making this like super affordable for like budget players. But I think this card's really crazy. Also, I didn't even mention this. This is not once per turn. You could side 3 of this and not feel bad about drawing 2 at all. In fact, you might just straight up clear a board and then some. You know what I mean? Send Intis to destroy a fusion and pop something else. Send whatever. I mean, if you're playing a Dogmatic deck, send Titaniclad, pop a second fusion, and then on the end phase, you're getting like crazy value. You could be looking at something like that, depending on the situation, right? That could be actually enough to just straight up win the game, depending on what your opponent's going for. So really, really crazy. Really happy to see this. I think this is a cool card that doesn't overly power creep. I think this is like a fair, even amount of power creep. I mean, you look at something like, what is that card called? Oh my gosh. Not Mind Control. The other spell that steals a monster. Went to one on the ban list a couple ban lists ago. It kind of gives me like feelings like that. But that card was negatable. So if your opponent just had a board full of multiple negates, all they had to burn was 1 negate on it. And it was really good into certain boards, like Appaloosa boards. Just being able to like straight up rip an Appaloosa from your opponent's board is really strong. But this card does that, and also has the protection that other monsters can't negate it, even if it's an Omni negate. Really, really powerful stuff. I'm really happy to see this. I'm really cool. The one thing that this does not do great against is stuff like Flunderees. Decks that don't even go into the extra deck for their end boards. Certain control decks also fall into that category. So definitely keep an eye out for that. That's why this definitely gives me side deck vibes more than main deck vibes. But I could also see scenarios where people were like, this card's just too reliable, not being respondable to. It just honestly comes up. Maybe in the main. I don't know. It'd take a specific deck though, in my opinion. But there you go. That's everything I got here today. Really, really cool card. Let me know your thoughts down below, your thoughts on this card. Really happy to see a good power generic card here. Battle of Chaos and Dimension Force don't seem to have a ton of just like completely game-wide generic bombs. And this is the first card we've seen since a couple of core sets. So I'm happy to see it. Hopefully we see another 1 or 2 cards in here that kind of fit that category as well. And yeah, this is definitely a nice little notch in the Power of the Elements belt for vying for like best core set of the year, for sure. But yeah, there you go. Let me know your thoughts. I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. Peace.